Have you ever wondered what happens when someone tries to take a selfie with an injured bear instead of calling for help? Stay tuned for our countdown, where we'll show you why wildlife and photo opportunities don't mix, especially when you're more focused on your phone than the fangs heading your way. Hello everyone, welcome to Wow Amazing. In this video, we will go through our Volume 15 of Top 10 Most Stupid Darwin Award Winners. But before we begin, we would like you guys to subscribe to Wow Amazing and hit the notification bell so you do not miss out on amazing and entertaining content that will surely get you amazed. Now get ready, because this volume is absolutely packed with tales that'll make you question humanity's survival as a species. Number 10, a Rocky Roll. Let's begin our countdown with a reminder that petty crime doesn't pay, especially when your getaway vehicle is moving. It's August 2002 in Vancouver, Washington, and 5 young men have decided that their evening entertainment should involve throwing rocks at mailboxes and cars. Not exactly criminal masterminds, but at least they had a system. 4 of them would lean out the windows of their Ford Aerostar minivan, launching their rocky missiles at unsuspecting targets as they cruised through quiet residential neighborhoods. But our Darwin Award winner, 23-year-old John, wasn't satisfied with this arrangement. He wanted a wider range of targets and more throwing power. So what did he do? While the van was cruising at speed, he decided to slide open the side door for better access. With the door wide open, he reached back for a particularly hefty rock, wound up for what he must have thought would be his mightiest throw yet, and launched himself into infamy. One powerful swing later, his momentum carried him straight through the open doorway and onto the unforgiving pavement below. The impact with the street caused immediate and fatal head injuries. His friends, suddenly less interested in vandalism, called emergency services, but it was too late. John had quite literally fallen out of the gene pool, leaving behind a cautionary tale about the dangers of combining petty crime, moving vehicles, and a complete disregard for basic physics. So the next time you're tempted to open a sliding door on a moving vehicle, remember, what goes inside must stay inside, especially when that inside is moving at 30 miles per hour. Number 9, tired of it all. What's worse than getting caught stealing? Getting caught forever under the very thing you're trying to steal. In August 1999, 47-year-old Daniel came up with a plan. Early in the morning, he snuck onto the Buckeye Ford dealership lot in London, Ohio. He lifted the back of a pickup truck, took off its wheels, and loaded them into another truck he had stolen from the same lot. A professional operation, or so he thought. On this particular night, Daniel had already successfully removed several sets of tires and was well on his way to a profitable haul. The pickup truck he was using to transport his stolen goods was half full of tires when he moved on to his next target. He positioned his jack under the frame of another pickup, raised it high enough to remove the wheels, and got to work. What Daniel failed to consider was the stability of his setup. Perhaps he was getting tired, or maybe he was rushing to finish before daylight. Whatever the reason, the truck shifted, the jack slipped, and several tons of Ford pickup came crashing down directly onto his chest. There he remained until dealership employees arrived for work later that morning, finding a stark reminder that crime doesn't pay, at least not when you're careless with a car jack. Daniel had literally been crushed by the weight of his own crimes. Number 8, on the piste. They say don't bite the hand that feeds you. Similarly, you probably shouldn't steal safety equipment from the very thing that could kill you without it. In February 2008, at the popular Italian ski resort of Sosdul, known for its lively party atmosphere, our next Darwin Award winner, David was enjoying an evening of drinking with his friends. The Milky Way ski area in northern Italy attracts many British tourists, including our main character and his friends, who had apparently consumed enough alcohol to think their next idea was brilliant. Looking at the safety barriers positioned at the bottom of a ski slope, designed to prevent skiers from careening into dangerous obstacles, they came up with what they considered a fun plan. They would remove the protective padding from these barriers and use it as makeshift sleds. Now, most people might pause to consider the obvious. If you remove safety padding from barriers at the bottom of a ski slope, those barriers become significantly more dangerous. But such logical considerations were apparently beyond David's alcohol-impaired reasoning. After tearing off the padding, the group climbed to the top of the slope and launched themselves downward, using the stolen safety materials as improvised sledges. Can you guess what happened next? Without any way to steer or brake effectively, and likely still under the influence of alcohol, David accelerated down the icy slope directly toward the now unpadded metal barriers from which he had stolen the protective cushioning. The impact was catastrophic. David hit the bare metal barriers, badly injuring his head and chest, and died on the spot. Two of his friends were also injured but survived after receiving medical attention. Another member of their group wandered away from the accident scene, described as bloodied and distressed, and was still missing when reports were filed. In what the ski resort spokesperson called an ironic turn of events, David was killed by the very same barrier he had stripped of protection. Sometimes the universe has a darkly poetic sense of justice. Number 7, focus on the bear. In our increasingly digital world, some people will risk anything for the perfect selfie, even their lives. In May 2018, Prabhu Bhattara was driving home from a wedding in Odisha, India, when he stopped his car by the roadside to relieve himself in the nearby woods. While answering nature's call, he spotted what appeared to be an injured bear lying on the ground not far away. Now, most people in this situation would either contact wildlife authorities to help the distressed animal, or more sensibly, stay as far away as possible. But Prabhu had a different idea. Seeing the perfect opportunity for an unusual selfie to share on social media, he decided to approach the bear, phone in hand. The passengers in his car, rather than stopping him, decided to pull out their own phones and film the encounter instead. They did verbally advise against his plan, but made no physical attempt to prevent what was about to happen. As Prabhu neared the bear, apparently convinced that the animal was too injured to pose a threat, he raised his phone to capture the perfect shot. That's when the bear, which turned out to be not nearly as injured as it had appeared, jumped forward with surprising speed and power. In an instant, the predator squeezed Prabhu to the ground. According to Forest Ranger, the attack killed him on the spot. Forest officials later treated the bear for its injuries. Though they couldn't rescue it, they made it out safely. The moral of this story? When it comes to wildlife encounters, leave your phone in your pocket and give wild animals the distance and respect they deserve. No selfie is worth your life. Number 6, shoot the gap. Some physics lessons come too late, as our next pair of Darwin Award winners discovered when they tried to beat a drawbridge. In May 2019, two Texas men aged 32 and 23 were driving near Lake Charles, Louisiana, when they approached the Black Bayou drawbridge. The bridge was clearly in its open position, allowing boats to pass underneath, with safety gates lowered to prevent vehicles from driving onto the raised portion. For most drivers, this would be a signal to stop and wait patiently. But these two men saw the raised drawbridge as a challenge instead of a stop sign. Their apparent plan? To shoot the gap and jump the opening in the bridge, a stunt straight out of an action movie, but without the Hollywood special effects or safety measures. Unlike the Blues Brothers, who famously jumped a drawbridge in their movie, these two lacked what might be called a mission from God. They also lacked the physics understanding to realize that a standard Chevy Cruze cannot fly across a drawbridge opening. As a witness later reported, the car accelerated hard toward the raised edge of the drawbridge, launched briefly into the air, and then plummeted into the water below. The vehicle quickly sank from sight in the dark waters of the bayou. Louisiana State Police divers later located and recovered the car using pontoons to lift it to the surface. Inside, they found the bodies of both men, drowned in their failed attempt to defy gravity. As one state trooper reportedly commented, "You cannot live long if the road's IQ is higher than your own." A double Darwin Award, a tragic reminder that patience is not just a virtue. Sometimes it's the difference between life and death. Number 5, pool party. Our next story proves that heroism without knowledge can lead to disaster, and that sometimes the worst thing you can do is follow someone else's fatal mistake. In July 2014, in the tiny Polish town of Karszówka, home to just 160 residents, an unimaginable tragedy happened on a hog farm. It began with a routine task. A driver arrived to empty a cesspool, transferring the waste from the septic tank into a slurry tank attached to his tractor. What happened next would claim the lives of 7 people, one after another, in a horrifying chain of events. While working near the cesspool, the driver was overcome by the highly toxic hydrogen sulfide fumes that naturally accumulate in such environments. He lost consciousness and fell into the pool of sewage. Upon seeing this, another person rushed to help, but without proper breathing equipment, they too succumbed to the invisible, deadly gas and fell in. A third person, witnessing two people now in distress, hurried to assist, only to become the third victim. This tragic sequence repeated itself 4 more times, as one would-be rescuer after another fell victim to the same deadly fumes. In total, 7 people drowned in the cesspool, each trying to save those who had gone before. This was a shocking loss of 5% of Karshuvka's entire population in just one incident. An 8th person was found in the muck, but miraculously survived thanks to the eventual arrival of emergency workers equipped with proper breathing apparatus. The incident serves as a sobering reminder of the dangers of toxic gases in confined spaces and the importance of proper safety equipment and training. Sometimes the most dangerous thing to do is to rush in to help without understanding the full scope of the danger. Number 4, air strike out. They say a picture is worth 1,000 words, but for our next Darwin Award winners, the pursuit of the perfect selfie proved to be worth much more: their lives. In March 2017, 2 young women, Nirvana and Corral, were having fun at the horse races in Chihuahua, Mexico. These particular races were held on a track adjacent to an airfield runway, a location where spectators arrived both by car and by small aircraft. After the excitement of the races, the women wanted to capture their experience with a selfie to share on social media. But there was a problem. Horse racing tracks and airfields are intentionally built on flat ground, making it difficult to get that perfect elevated shot of the surroundings. Looking around, they noticed that the highest point in the area was atop a vehicle parked alongside the uncontrolled airfield runway. Without permission from the owner, they climbed onto what reports variously describe as either a flatbed truck or a van. Standing on top of the vehicle, they posed and smiled, completely absorbed in getting the perfect angle for their photo. What they failed to consider was their new position as the highest points at a rural airfield without air traffic control. As they focused on their phones, paying no attention to their surroundings, a small aircraft began its descent onto the runway. According to witnesses, the noise of the crowd at the races drowned out the sound of the approaching plane. The wing of the descending aircraft struck the 2 women, killing them instantly. Their tragic deaths serve as a stark reminder of the dangers of distraction and the sometimes fatal pursuit of social media validation. Number 3, faithful flotation. Faith can move mountains, they say, but unfortunately for our next Darwin Award winner, it cannot overcome the laws of physics. In August 2006 in Libreville, Gabon, a 35-year-old pastor was delivering an impassioned sermon to his congregation. In the middle of his speech, he made a shocking statement. He said that with enough faith, a person could actually walk on water, just like Jesus did in the Bible. His words grew increasingly fervent as he extolled the heavenly power that a truly faithful person could possess. His rhetoric became so powerful and convincing that he may well have persuaded himself of this miraculous ability. Whether driven by genuine belief or by the fear of appearing doubtful after such a definitive statement, the pastor decided to demonstrate his faith in spectacular fashion. He announced to his followers that he would walk across a major estuary, a body of water normally crossed by a 20-minute ferry ride. There was just one small problem: the pastor couldn't swim. Undeterred by this seemingly minor detail, and apparently confident in his divine protection, he set out to perform his miracle. As his faithful followers watched, some likely in awe and others in growing concern, the pastor began his attempt to traverse the waters on foot. Lacking the miraculous powers described in ancient texts, the ill-fated cleric quickly sank into the estuary. Unable to swim, and with no divine intervention forthcoming, he drowned. His body was later recovered from the water, a grim reminder that faith, however strong, doesn't suspend the natural laws of buoyancy and fluid dynamics. Unfortunately, physics still had the final say. He floated but upside down with his head submerged and was only saved by the quick action of spectators. The lesson? Perhaps it's that, while faith can offer many things, a suspension of physical laws isn't among them. Number 2, a one-track mind. In July 2008, in Italy, 68-year-old Gerhard was waiting at a traffic light in his expensive Porsche Cayenne SUV. The line was moving slowly, and before reaching the light, there was a railroad crossing. Perhaps distracted or impatient, Gerhard didn't leave enough space between his vehicle and the car ahead, inadvertently positioning his Porsche directly on the train tracks when the queue stopped. As if perfectly timed by Murphy's Law, at that very moment, a train was approaching. The railroad crossing safety bars automatically came down, trapping Gerhard's luxury SUV between them, directly in the path of the oncoming train. According to witnesses, it took Gerhard several precious moments to realize the danger he was in. Finally understanding his predicament, he made the correct initial decision and jumped out of his vehicle to safety. But then, perhaps calculating the cost of a Porsche Cayenne, he made a fatal error in judgment. Instead of continuing to move away from the tracks, Gerhard turned and ran directly toward the approaching train, waving his arms frantically in an attempt to save his expensive vehicle. It was a decision that would cost him everything. The train, unable to stop in time, struck both the Porsche and its owner. While the SUV sustained serious damage, it fared better than Gerhard, who was thrown 30 meters by the impact. Emergency responders attempted to revive him, but the injuries were too severe. In a tragic reminder of what truly matters in life, Gerhard lost his life trying to save a replaceable possession. The moral of the story? Momentum always wins. Number 1, wet will he. Our number 1 Darwin Award winner proves that water and electricity have a shocking relationship, especially when you're standing in the middle of it. In August 1999, Rodney was enjoying a beautiful day jet skiing on Lake Washington. The sun was shining, the water was refreshing, and the powerful watercraft beneath him provided all the excitement he could want. Until, that is, he noticed his battery beginning to fail. Recognizing the need for a charge, Rodney idled over to a dock near Juanita Beach Park and tied up his jet ski. He then ran to his car to retrieve a battery charger, returning quickly to restore power to his watercraft. Now, most people might recognize that combining electricity, water, and metal makes for a potentially deadly cocktail. But on this sunny day, such considerations were apparently far from Rodney's mind. Standing on the dock, he plugged his charger into a 110-volt outlet. Then, in a decision that defies all safety protocols and common sense, he jumped onto his watercraft while still holding the booster cable. The result was as immediate as it was fatal. Electricity, always seeking the path of least resistance, found a perfect conductor in Rodney's body, surrounded by water. The powerful current surged through him, causing immediate electrocution. He was found floating face down beneath the dock later that evening, a grim reminder of electricity's unforgiving nature. What makes this tragedy even more emotional is its preventability. Had Rodney simply turned off the power before handling the cables, or stayed on the dry dock while connecting them, or used proper marine charging equipment, he might have enjoyed many more days of jet skiing on Lake Washington. Instead, his name was added to the Darwin Awards, a permanent reminder that water and electricity create connections that can be deadly. Bonus entry: bees 1, humans 0. Like a scene from a comedy that turned dark too quickly, our bonus story features a man who protected himself from the wrong danger. In September 2002, a farm keeper from Sao Paulo, Brazil, decided it was time to remove a beehive from his orange tree. The problem was, he didn't exactly know how to proceed with this delicate operation. What he did know was that beehives should be burned, and that bees sting. Armed with these 2 pieces of information, he devised what he thought was a foolproof plan. To protect himself from the stinging insects, he covered his head with a plastic bag, which he carefully sealed tight around his neck. Then, torch in hand, he marched confidently toward the hive, ready to do battle with the buzzing menace. When his wife hadn't seen him for several hours, she went looking for him. What she found was her husband, lying dead near the orange tree. Surprisingly, it wasn't the bees that had killed him. The plastic bag had indeed protected him from smoke and stingers, but it had also protected him from something rather essential: oxygen. In his focused preparation against the bees, he had forgotten to put breathing holes in his makeshift protective headgear. While the bees continued to buzz safely in their hive, our would-be beekeeper had accidentally asphyxiated himself. Sometimes the danger isn't what you think it is. And there you have it, 10 + 1 of humanity's finest moments of poor decision-making. Also, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you don't miss our next episode, where we'll bring you more tales of evolution in action. And if you know someone who could use a lesson in common sense, share this video with them. You might just save a life. As always, stay smart, stay safe, and remember, Darwin is watching. This is Wow Amazing, signing off until next time.